So I noticed that you did cross on left, and that kind of reminds me of how you would do the cross during Yao for 4x4. And during that step, you would insert one cross edge at a time, and that's kind of similar to what you did. So only for this solve, I'm going to talk about cross on bottom. Afterwards, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. So here, I'll show you what I would have done for cross on the bottom, then I'll go over what you did for cross on left. So we have the cross pieces here, 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 and here. So the first thing that I noticed is that orange and green. Orange is on the left of green, but here the center is orange goes on the right of green. So that means that when they're both like this, you can insert them like that. Then all you have to do is insert red and then insert blue. Okay, now going over what you did. So you put the white center on the left and then you inserted blue first and then you inserted red like this. So it goes correct relative to blue. Then you inserted green like this and then orange last. So as you can see, you inserted one at a time, and it would be a lot easier to insert multiple pieces at a time with cross on the bottom. Anyway, your first pair was this one and this one. So you did it like this, pretty straightforward. Then you had these two, and I don't know what you're doing here. You probably just misrecognized or something because you did this, which didn't do anything. So anyway, probably just a mistake. Next, you just went and did this normally. So like this. Now for these two, there's a pretty easy way to pair them up, and that is if you put the corner over here and take out the edge like that. Then you can just insert it into the back. So what you did for this pair was a bit less efficient, but you also made a big mistake here, which I notice is one of your general habits, is to always insert with your right hand. So you did a double rotation and then paired them up like this. So besides the insert being a little bit less efficient, it is really inefficient to do 2 rotations just to make sure that you have your right hand doing the insert. So make sure you can get equally comfortable doing left-handed inserts as well, because it'll reduce a lot of cube rotations. So now you inserted this, and lastly had these two, so you just pair them up, and then insert. Now for 2-look OLL, I noticed that you were doing this algorithm for the L case. You did F, double sexy move, F prime. Now it's not a really big deal, but you could do that a little bit faster by doing F reverse sexy move, F prime. So anyway, after what you did, then now you have the second look of OLL. All right, now you had a G perm, so you did 2-look PLL. And then now you had a U perm. So for the U perm, I recommend you do the standard finger tricks, which is like this. Or alternatively, the MU ones, which are really easy to remember. So like this. So the one you did, I think a lot of people learn it as their beginner U-perm, and it's okay for memorization, but it's not very good for speed. So what you did is this. So if you just know this one because it's easy to remember, I recommend you switch to the MU U-perms because they're pretty much just as easy to remember. So for the second solve, you had a pretty easy cross. These two are already done, and you have blue here and red here. So with cross on left, of course, what you did was this. First, you inserted blue like that. Then you inserted red. So at this point, you may not have noticed this pair was already made. So let's go back to the beginning of the solve. So when you have such an easy cross, what you should try to do is inspect to your first pair. And this pair should have been the easiest one to find at first. What you can do before starting the cross, with cross on left, of course, for you, would be to do B2 first to get this into the U layer, and then just do your cross normally, and you can start with this pair during F2L. Now, another idea you could use here is if you want to ignore this pair, you could also work on this pair first, because after you insert blue, then this pair is made. So all you have to do is do R prime to take it out of where you're inserting the red piece into, and then that'll also be okay. And the final idea I have here is that when you finish your cross already, this pair was right in here. So what you could do as well is take this pair out and then align the cross so that by aligning the cross, you wouldn't break this pair. So then after finishing the cross, you saw this pair. So you pair them up like this. And at this point, I think you should have tried to look ahead to this pair. So then when you inserted this, you could go straight into this pair because nothing else you could really find. So what you did was you looked at the back, which is generally a pretty bad habit. And the reason is because you can probably find things better by doing a rotation. or by doing U moves, or just by looking at the front here. Another thing that could have helped your look ahead is for this pair, once you pair it up, since you'll have to rotate anyway, you should rotate so that you're inserting it into a back slot. That way you'll have open front slots, so you have this pair and also this pair. But inserting it into the front leaves you with a solved front slot and less pieces to look ahead to. Anyway, then for this pair, you can do this with your left hand, and that is by taking this out pretty much in any way, such as like this, and doing this pair, or taking it out this way and doing this pair. But what you did was a rotation first, and this is because I think you have a bias towards using your right hand. So now what you did was this, take it out, and then do this pair. So if you're going to do the pair with your right hand, I recommend you use some slightly different finger tricks. So the reason is because you regripped like this, took it out, and then did U prime to get it over here, and then regripped your right hand. So what I think would have been better for finger tricks to reduce your number of regrips is to have your right thumb at the front the whole time, take it out like this, U2, and then you can do this without regrips. Or alternatively, what I usually do is take it out like this, and then there's no regrips anyway. Anyway, so after this pair, you had this one, and this one has a really easy solution, and that is to pair them up like this, and then just insert. But what you did was something less efficient, so you put it over here, and then did this to pair it up, and then inserted. Next for these two, what you can do to pair them up is like this, or like this, and both of those work. What you did was one of them, but what you did instead was rotate twice so that you'd start with your right hand, which again is the same habit I was talking about before. So then you paired it up like this, and then rotated to right hand again, and did that. So just make sure you can start that one with your left hand, because otherwise you have a lot of rotations. So now to look OLL. And then J Perm. So what I noticed for this one is that this block here is going to move to the left. So we know that that wouldn't be solved because green doesn't go here, green goes over here. So at the end, the AUF is going to be a U. And that's important because for this specific PLL algorithm, it is pretty hard to AUF with a U after doing the algorithm. So here's why. Here's the algorithm. And then here you have to do R and L. So if you did R and L like that, then notice that your hands are definitely in no position to do a U move. So what's commonly done is R and then wide R like this. So again, which is like this. But notice again, your fingers in this case would not be in a position to do U. You'd have to regrip your right hand. So one thing you could do is regrip your left hand right here, do L, R, and then do U with your left hand like this. This is one of the good options for doing U, AUF in this case. So the other way that's good for AUF doing a U in this case is to start the algorithm normally. So U2 with your right hand here. Then after R, U prime, R prime, regrip your right hand while doing U2 with your left hand. Now you can do R, L, and U comfortably. So again, that would be like this. So anyway, it's important to not have a regrip before you do AUF because that can slow you down a lot just for doing that one last move. And also to recognize before PLL what you're going to have to do for AUF so you can transition into it smoothly. So for this cross, you had the cross pieces here, 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 and here. So what you noticed was that orange and green can go in like this and be in the correct spot relative to each other. So that's the first thing that you did, orange and then green. Next, you inserted blue by putting it over here, then inserting it to the right of orange, or in this case, under orange. Then you had the red piece, so you did it like this. All right, then align the cross. And the first thing that you had was this pair. So you did this in an interesting way that I don't see much, but it's actually pretty good. So I think this is 10 moves long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just going to suggest two ways that are better for this one. So since this is in the opposite slot of where it should go and the white sticker faces up, one option is not very good for look ahead, but it is only 5 moves and it goes like this. Put the white sticker over here and then do this. Then another option is to put the white sticker at the back here and do reverse sledgehammer. And that pairs them up, which is 4 moves, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, after the way that you inserted it, you next had this pair, and here you did 2 rotations when instead you could have done 0. So what you did was rotate like this to use this empty slot, break that up to pair these two, and then you rotated again to insert like that. So what I recommend instead is to just use a different slot like this one, so you don't have to rotate. So put it over here, pair them up like that, then you can insert without rotating. Next you had this one and this one. So this, again, when you have a corner in here and the edge is on top, then there's a really easy way to do it. And in this case, it's just 2 sexy moves like this. But then what you did was basically reorient the corner. You did 2 sexy moves and then paired them up like this. So even from here, what you did was pair them up like that. What's even better from here is something that I showed earlier, but just the mirror of what I showed, is to do this. Kind of like 2 reverse sexy moves. So then from here, you pair them up like that and then insert it. So that was a lot of moves that could have been reduced. Now here you basically have the same case again. So you just did the same thing. All right, then soon and Y perm. So for this solve, you had your cross pieces here, 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 and here. So what you did first was insert red, then insert green, then insert orange. So this is not in the correct order, but that's fine. So what you did was inserted blue and then corrected them using M2, U2, M2. So coming back to this part before you inserted blue, anytime you have one cross piece in the wrong spot, then what you can do is take your last cross piece and insert it where it should go, which is over here. So just insert blue on top of green, and then now green is out. Just align the cross and then put green back in. So anytime you have one cross piece that's in the wrong spot and your last cross piece hasn't gone in yet, you can always do something like this. So anyway, after your cross solution, I think the first thing you saw was this one and this one, or maybe you thought it was this one with this one because you did this, and then nothing was paired up and you kind of lost these pieces. So next what you did was move on to this one and this one. So if you just do U2, you can pair them up, these two, like this, and then just insert into the back. But what you did was rotate first and then do them like this. Next you had these two. So for this, I recommend you do something like this. Insert the corner and then do this case, which I showed earlier, which is like this. So what you did instead was move it over here and then do this, which resulted in a new case, and you did it like this. So that required 2 rotations, and that's why I recommend doing it in the other way instead. So now you had this one and this one, so you did it like this, and then these two. So the rest of the solve is pretty straightforward. Then OLL, so 2 look, and then end perm. All right, so for the last solve, you had your cross pieces here, 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 and here. So your first 3 were planned out pretty well. So you inserted red. Now you had to align red, but then first of all, what you did was for these 2, just align both of them to go in. Align red, insert blue, insert orange. All right, now you have the green piece going into here. So what you did was L2, F2, L2. So instead of that took 3 moves, but instead you could have done it in 2 moves if you just do a wide L2, since that brings the center over as well. So then just insert it like that. Okay, so for your first F2L pair, you did this one and this one. So again, I showed this earlier. What you should do for this case is pair them up like this. And then what you did instead was move this one over here and did the same moves, which does pair it up as well, but then you have to do an extra move before inserting it. Next, you had this one and this one, which is the same case, just mirrored. So you should do it with your left hand. And just like before, what I already mentioned, you ended up rotating to do it with your right hand, which is a bad habit. So you pair them up like this and inserted. Next you had this pair, so just insert into the back. And then lastly, this one. So pretty straightforward here at the end, but then in the beginning, make sure that you also use your left hand to insert since it'll save you rotations. So now OLL, and then PLL. So 2 look, and then with the U perm here again. I forgot the alg. So one of your biggest strengths is that you turn really smoothly and you don't go too fast or too slow. So the advantages of turning smoothly is that first of all, you would make fewer mistakes because you're not like turning really roughly and as hard as you can. And the second big advantage of turning smoothly is that it makes it easier to look ahead. Not just because you're turning slowly, but also because the pieces don't move around so much. So if you're doing stuff like this, where you're turning really harshly, then it's hard to watch pieces where they go, even if you're doing that kind of slowly. But if you go really smoothly and keep the cube still, then that makes it easier to look ahead. So that's one thing that I thought was really good about your solves, and why even though sometimes you had some inefficiencies and extra rotations, your solves were still pretty good times. So of course I talked about cross on the left, and that might be a hard habit to break to change it to cross on the bottom, but I think you can come up with a lot more efficient solutions if you tried cross on the bottom for a bit. But the most important thing in your solves is to avoid rotations by doing left-handed F2L inserts as well. So I notice you're really comfortable using your right hand, but if you get equally comfortable with your left hand during F2L, then you'll save so many rotations and it'll just make your solutions so much more smooth. All right, so I'm not going to be looking at solve videos for very much longer. If you want to submit a video, then do it soon because I'll be making a Facebook post for when I stop accepting solve critiques. So I'll be doing this once in a while, and every time that I'm going to be accepting solve videos and giving tips again, then I'll make a Facebook post about that. So the reason I don't make announcements on my channel is because you would have to watch the latest video, and if the latest video is not for you, then you would not have seen it. So if you do want to see any announcements I make, then you can follow my Facebook page. The link is in the description. All right, and that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys all next time.